of our community and press. Welcome to the July Council meeting. I'm Mayor Young. I'll be the presiding member this evening. I draw your attention to the disclaimer on the inside of the agenda pack that is available as you come into the meeting, and also draw your attention to the fact that the meeting will be recorded. It will be live streamed and will be available for viewing on the town's website into the future. So anyone who is here, who is speaking, they will be captured on that. So that is just to let everybody know that in accordance with our policy. I will acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional custodians of the land where we're meeting this evening, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Attendance, we have no apologies, and I believe that Councillor Bulbeck may have been delayed. So I will not record her as an apology, and perhaps we're expecting Councillor Bulbeck to come along. We don't have anybody on approved leaves of absence, and apart from Councillor Bulbeck, we have a full house of elected members. And do we have a full house of officers?
We do, Madam Mayor.
We do, that's great, thank you. Are there any applications for leave of absence? Councillor Mason?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have submitted my paperwork. It is from the 11th to 14th of August. Just in case there are any, I don't believe that it coincides with an OCM, but in case there's any workshops.
Okay, thank you. Do I have Councillor Sadler moves that Councillor Mason be granted leave of absence from the 11th to 14th of August inclusive. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Harkins, all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Are there any others? Thank you. Declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda this evening. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Sadler?
Thank you, Mayor Young. I've got a declaration of interest with respect to items 10.1.4 and the Marine Parade Shared Path public consultation, and 13.1.2 Marine Parade Shared Path Detailed Design Consultancy Tender, in that I am a board member of Westcycle that advocates for active transport infrastructure, but I believe I can consider the items on its merits and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest? No. Right, I don't have any announcements without discussion, so we'll move straight on to public question time. The first public question is from Mr. Peter Rattigan. Mr. Rattigan, are you... And I'll just draw your attention to the rules of procedure that govern how we run the meetings, and remind everyone that it is a 3-minute limit to speak. And public questions should be succinct and avoid unnecessary preamble and expressions of opinion. Public statements can be made at public statement time. Public questions can be on any item of the town's business. Public statements are limited to items on the agenda. Can we please just note Councillor Bulbeck's arrival? Mr. Rattigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Peter Rattigan, 9 Grant Street, Cottesloe. Got 3 questions, Your Honour. Question 1. In an answer to a previous question, Council has stated that tree canopy in Cottesloe is measured biannually, and that the previous assessment was done in 2023, and that the next assessment is planned for 2026. Questions are: A, is this not a triannual process rather than biannual? B, what date, including the day, month and year, was the last tree canopy assessment done? And C, what date, including the day, month and year, is the next tree canopy assessment to occur?
Can we provide an answer to that?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I'm not aware of the exact date, so I'd have to go back unless Mr. Khan is aware of them.
Through the chair, if it's okay, I'd like to take that on notice so I can undertake research and give due consideration in my response.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My second question is, bearing in mind that the green infrastructure strategy has a goal of 30% tree canopy in the town by 2040, and that the present tree canopy is presently a long way away from that goal, i.e. less than half. The question is, A, what actions would be required from the town to put in place annual assessment of the town's tree canopy?
Madam Mayor, I suspect we're going to need to take that question on notice as well. We're going to need a detailed answer.
And my third question is, as the town has acknowledged that the West Australian Planning Commission, in making its decision relating to the Station Street towers, would have had to give consideration to a planning policy of the town protecting significant trees on private property, if in fact the town had enacted such a policy, as adopted by nearby councils. The question is, will the council consider adopting a planning policy for the protection of significant trees on private property so that the West Australian Planning Commission is obliged to consider such a policy when dealing with any future applications in the town similar to the Station Street Towers proposal?
Again, Mr CEO.
Look, Madam Mayor, actually a question I'm very interested in myself, so I'll be interested to know if Council has an appetite for that. Certainly we'll be endeavouring to ask of Council those questions. I know it's quite a time-consuming process. I was at Mosman Park when they were starting their process. It is quite time-consuming. It also relies on the town planning scheme being relatively up-to-date to allow it to occur. So certainly we'll be examining that to bring back to Council for consideration. I can't speak for the Council, but I certainly will be examining it to bring it back to Council for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Rattigan. And now Mr Morgan. Now, can I just, are we going to try and attempt to answer them? I haven't got a
Oh,
written-
well, you're supposed to tell me when I ask them. I was just following up from when I was here on the last occasion. I heard on my way out the door that you have 3 meetings per month. Do I take it that's a monthly workshop, an agenda forum and an ordinary council meeting that you're referring to when you're saying you have 3 regular meetings per month?
Yes, that is correct. And I believe that I said at least 3.
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of working through those 3. The pre-meeting agenda forum, I mean, I suppose the council meetings are a meeting under the Act, but would you agree that the pre-meeting agenda forum is not a meeting under the Local Government
Yes, I
Act?
would agree.
And the pre-agenda forum workshop is not a meeting either? under
It's
the
not
Act?
actually termed a pre-agenda briefing forum. It's a briefing forum. And that is not...
No, I said pre-agenda forum workshop. In
Yeah,
other
it's
words,
not a it's not called a
oh,
pre-agenda.
so what's the workshop for?
It's
Just
called a briefing forum.
a briefing forum.
It doesn't necessarily relate to the month's agenda.
Okay, so you've got an ordinary council meeting, an agenda forum and a briefing forum. Briefing forum comes first?
The briefing forum is the first Tuesday of every month, the agenda forum is the third Tuesday of every month, and the ordinary council meeting is the fourth Tuesday of the month.
And the briefing forum, does that deal with upcoming agenda items?
It deals with matters that may or may not come to future meetings. It is looking at matters on which the administration is seeking some kind of direction from council.
So the officers can listen to the discussion at the briefing forum and on that basis formulate the recommendation they might make to council. Is that
look,
what happens?
Yeah, Mr Morgan, what I'll do is refer you, and I'm very happy to ask the CEO to send to you a copy of the department's guidelines on council forums, which sets out the purpose of the
Well, actually,
briefing
that's where I'm
forums.
getting. That's spot on, because they point out that to have a closed meeting such as that briefing forum, which isn't a meeting, is just highly dangerous, given that none of you actually have to disclose any interest when you sit down and debate. You don't have to do it. It's quite lawful. It would be unethical. And they also, I think in that, if you read those guidelines, my understanding of it, the CEO can confirm, that I think they're saying it's pretty unethical to actually have a closed-door forum dealing with agenda items that are coming up.
I don't believe, I think, Mr Morgan, I have read those guidelines quite closely on a number of occasions, and I think that you might be picking at particular sections. The guidelines expressly recognise the value of those forums.
So how do you know if someone's got an interest in their debate?
Interests are declared.
But they don't have to do that. There's no law requirement.
Well, interests are declared, so that's a moot point.
And finally, every time I come down here and make a public statement...
Could I just add to it, in terms of common practice as well as the guidelines? I've worked at 4 councils over the last
I know it's
2
common
years,
right throughout Australia.
Order, please, Mr Morgan.
And the common practice is that briefing sessions, strategic briefing sessions are held to enable officers to brief council on issues, not asking them to debate it. In fact, debate is not encouraged at all. So debate's anything but encouraged. Yes, we always ask for declarations of interest, and actually you avoid decision-making at all costs. So there's no decision-making made, and it is just a chance for officers to actually brief council on issues that may or may not be coming to council.
My point, sir, is that the officer makes a decision based upon what he hears said at that meeting. Hence, that's why there's no discussion at meetings like this. And my final question was, every time I come down here and make a public statement, Your Worship, you always provide a verbal response. I just was going to provide you the opportunity, and every time I say that's in breach of the standing orders, you say it's not, so I thought I'd give you the opportunity to explain to me where is the source of your power to provide a response to my public statement.
There is a residual provision in the standing orders that provides that where a matter is not expressly dealt with in the standing orders, it's the presiding member's call. Thank you.
No, the Act...
No,
and
thank
the
you,
regs-
Mr Morgan. I'm not going to argue with you. I will ask the CEO, in corresponding with you, to direct you to the provision in the standing orders. Thank you. That was Mr Morgan. Public statement time. Mr Rattigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a public statement for matters that are on the agenda this evening. Firstly, 13.1.1, which is the CEO's performance, or KPIs, for want of a better word. And also on 10.1.1, item 6, which is the elected members' remuneration, which are both on the agenda. Madam Mayor, Cottesloe is unique in, I think, in two aspects. One is the beach, which is very ably looked after by Coast Care and the community volunteers. And the other thing is the verdant nature of the suburb, as is the whole of the western suburbs. And it would appear that some of our neighbouring councils are a bit more verdant than Cottesloe is. Now, the elected members, I think, has a total remuneration in the budget for the year of $207,000. And I would offer a positive suggestion to the councillors with KPIs and keeping and putting a bit of interest in the position of councillor, and that nobody wants to have a social game of golf with a friend and not keep score, or have a social game of tennis with a friend and not keep score, even though it's a friendly game. And I would like to see some KPIs as a sort of a bit of an interest for the elected members with the tree canopy for Cottesloe. So at the moment it's pretty abysmal. It's 12%, it's somewhere between 12 and 14%, probably not that now. Now, wouldn't it be lovely to have some KPIs with the tree canopy, whether it's increasing or decreasing for the suburbs, so that the goal of the council or the town is to more than double the tree canopy in the next 15 years, as to try to get to 30% by 2040. Wouldn't it be lovely in 15 years' time for a councillor to drive around with their children or grandchildren and say, look at this, we've reached the 30%, and that's because each year for the last 15 years, I, as a councillor, have put an effort in, and we've achieved this. Or alternatively, if the KPIs are not met in 15 years' time, which is not a very long time, that you drive around with your children or grandchildren, and Cottesloe is a sea of concrete and high-rise and a few trees here and there, but the tree canopy has not improved. Bearing in mind how we're going to get to double it in 15 years, I think we need to get a move on. So if it hasn't improved, you could say, well, that's I'm to blame for that. I didn't live up to the KPIs. So when you're considering the CEO's KPIs, which is standard, which he will enjoy meeting, obviously, perhaps we should look as a council at putting some KPIs on our elected members in relation to the tree canopy. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Rattigan. And Mr Morgan.
Councillors, I'm talking about the bike path. 40 years ago, Cottesloe was ahead of its time, allowing the foreshore path to be shared with bikes made subject to a local speed limit. This was when bikes were otherwise blanket banned from footpaths until eventually allowed about a decade ago with the 10-kilometre-hour limit. After about 20 years, council policy recognised the need to in future separate bikes from pedestrians on the path, and this has now been confirmed in recent weeks, as you would have seen experts in the news pointing out how sightseeing promenades such as this are the last place to put a shared path, particularly those that travel at 25 kilometres an hour. Your proposed upgrades put those risks on steroids, giving the path the appearance of being designed and built for more speed than the current path, enticing riders to begin to exercise their lawful entitlement to travel at 25 kilometres an hour. And no doubt those who are not law-abiding will be able to go more than double that speed. And any rumble strips or other design features you put in their way will just give them a challenge and exacerbate the risks. The upgrades will be a retrograde step back in time. It would not be a question of if, but of when and how often serious injury or worse will result. Those who approved the upgrades in 2020 did so without any real consultation nor an understanding of what it involves, as is shown by later approving the new playground near Dutch Inn, but which has now to be redesigned to accommodate this upgrade they had already approved. It is concerning that the path has still not been subjected to any safety audit, despite being on the books for about 4 years, as is apparent by the fact that its route takes it through a dog exercise area in which dogs do not have to be on leads, all whilst e-rideable zoom past at 25 kilometres an hour trying to avoid sightseeing tourists. This has all the hallmarks of amateur hour, councillors. All the worse because the council appears hell-bent, I think, on making itself self-appointed experts on bike paths and on pursuing its own agenda rather than what the community wants to do. The survey results were not released until a matter of hours ago, despite the report on them being prepared 2 weeks ago. And these results are at odds with the report you commissioned. The report states that your upgrades have broad community support, because when I've gone through them rather quickly, but even allowing a tolerance of error, the raw data shows that 125 out of 225 oppose it. That's 55% against. I don't know if that's broad community opposition, but it's a long way from broad community support. But sadly, the longer you held back this survey data, the more obvious it became what would be found when it was released.
Thank you, Mr Morgan. I will just correct you on the release of the survey results. I'll ask the CEO to...
Madam Mayor, the survey results were issued with the original report. Unfortunately...
Oh, Mr Morgan, are you not going to?
No,
Are you not going to?
Well, I'll answer
yes,
for the council.
thank you.
The survey results were issued with the original report, which was released a week and a bit ago. The details, the individual analysis, each individual survey comment was not released until today. I'd taken on board for that. And probably we could have, but I would say it's actually not normal practice for the detailed results of every person that submits to a survey to be analysed. Normally you would take on board the results as summarised by the consultant that puts together the survey document, the survey result document. We can be criticised for it, and I'll take the blame for that, I suppose. But I think what would normally be submitted in a report was submitted in the report that went out last Friday week.
Thank you, Mr CEO. And I will just add to that a close comparison of the raw data and the consultant's report does evidence that the consultant's report accurately reflects the raw data and does highlight the issues with the path, warts and all, but it does also show significant community support for the project. Contrary to what has been said earlier. So that is the end of public statement time. I'm going to return to minutes. And can I have a mover of that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 24th of June 2025 be confirmed as a true and accurate record. Do I have a mover? Councillor Sadler, and a seconder, Councillor Thomas. All in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. So we will go now to, just bear with me. We did have scheduled a deputation from, I forget the, it was a representative of the Cancer Council. I've forgotten her surname though.
Ainsley, I've got a question though.
Yeah. And she has instead asked for her deputation to be circulated to elected members, which it has been. And I have asked the CEO to ensure that that is tabled and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. And I hope that elected members had the opportunity to have a look at the deputation. So moving on to reports of officers. Actually, we better do the called up and can you just let me know the items that have been called up?
Madam Mayor, 10.1.1, the adoption of the budget, it has to come out because it's absolute majority anyway. 10.1.4, which is a marine paid share path consultation process. Item 11.1, which is the notice of motion. Item 13.1 is the confidential item in relation to KPIs for the CEO. And item 13.1.2, which is the marine parade shed path, have all been requested to be discussed. That leaves behind, Madam Mayor, items 10.1.2, 10.1.3 and 10.1.5, which can be adopted in block.
Yeah, thank you. So do I have a mover that item 10.1.2, policy review, policies recommended for revocation, item 10.1.3, storage of items, materials and goods on local government property policy, and item 10.1.5, CEO Quarterly Information Bulletin be accepted for en bloc consideration. Councillor Mason moving and Councillor Willing co-seconding. All in favour? And that's passed unanimously. And I would like to say thank you to Mr Cleaver because it's a lot of your work there, but obviously it was incredibly well done because it's going through en bloc. And I think the CEO Quarterly Information Bulletin is authored by the CEO, so thank you for that as well. So turning, sorry?
It's a bit last minute.
Starting with item 10.1.1, adoption of the annual budget. Before we consider the item, I will ask the CEO to speak on the salient features of the budget.
And Madam Mayor, thanks for the opportunity. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity just to talk about a document which takes some months to prepare and probably has a couple of focuses. One's on our financial position. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then I'm going to ask Vicky to talk about some of the main things that are actually in the budget in terms of projects and capital projects. So just wanted to say it was an interesting, for my first role as budget here, is a 4.3% increase in operating revenue, which is really made up mainly of increases in I have to say, rates and rubbish charges, both going up by 3.9%. Interestingly, there's only a 2.7% increase in operating expenditure, so less than the operating revenue, and that probably will reflect in our improved financial position. But of that 2.7%, I will acknowledge there's a 6.7% increase in costs related to employee costs, 3% as a result of the industrial agreement, an increase because of the legislation around superannuation going up this year. We actually had quite a large increase in our workers' compensation costs, so that's clearly an area for me to concentrate over the next 2 years to get our workers' compensation claims down. And I'm thankful that the council has agreed in this budget to 3 new staff. It's a 2.1 FTE within the budget. So there's some significant things in that employee cost, but overall, operating costs have only gone up by that 2.7%. No new loans, so continual reduction in our loan indebtedness, which is really only for the Grove Library, and that's slowly but surely coming down. I think it's about $1.3 million now. A moderate increase in our reserve funds again this year, following a trend from last year, and that's really important to us because we need to be putting some funds away for maintenance of future assets. And when I think our reserve fund balance is around $8.2 million, $5 million of that really set aside for the foreshore, so it doesn't leave a great deal for other emergency works or future assets. So we do want to, in our long-term financial planning, continue to build those reserve funds. An increase on last year's budget of $815,000 for capital expenditure, so that's really good news. That is us putting money into our assets. It is a balanced budget, so it's zero balance. And I have to say, a fair bit of work's been done in terms of trying to match the budget into our long-term financial plan and our asset management planning processes. I think we can do them better, and I'm going to do a lot of work on that in the next 12 months to improve those processes. But it's really important that those plans get linked because, we've got a $110 million capital asset that we need to be looking after. So that's really one of the key drivers to make sure that we are financially secure. I'm going to pass over to Vicky just in relation to the capital projects.
Can I just ask, sorry, Ms Cobby, before you start, I wonder if you could elaborate on the 2.1 FTE and the background, because I feel that is in response to community issues raised about those things.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's probably really apt because there's 3 positions across 3 very different styles of employment. And 3 things that actually have been identified in your community planning process. One was around governance and increased governance presence, and I'm in the process at the moment of trying to employ our senior governance officer. I'm not saying there's any problems, there's not, but there is a gap in our administration in terms of who's in charge of governance, so I'm thankful that Council has agreed on that. There's a slight increase in our budget of 0.6 for a community engagement officer, so things like we're discussing on in terms of the community surveys, where they're quite difficult projects, but not necessarily managed brilliantly, because we don't have anyone overseeing the content. We don't have anyone overseeing the various methodologies by which you should consult. It's shouldn't always be by hard survey or by, and it's also really important to make sure we're connecting with the right people when we do these surveys. So I'm very pleased that Council's agreed to a part-time officer there. And the other one is a recognition of our, very much as was getting discussed earlier in our deputation, in relation to the sustainability issues. So an agreement to bring forward an officer that was budgeted for in our workforce plan 3 years hence. The Council has agreed to bring forward that to the back half of the year in terms of someone in the sustainability, bush care, environmental care space. And the first function I'm hoping to do there is actually to draw together all those sustainability functions that we currently take in a bit of an ad hoc manner. So we want to pull them together into one document. So I'm very thankful that the Council has thus far, they haven't adopted the budget yet. I'm leaping ahead of myself. Has thus far supported those in the budget process.
Thank you. And Ms Cobby?
Thank you, and through the chair, I wanted to highlight the significant grants that we've have got in our budget this year. We have over $1.1 million in capital funding this year, including $400,000 for the Marine Parade Shared Path. This is this year's portion of a much bigger federal government grant for over $4 million. We've got $550,000 for stage 1 of the Healthy Streets project. This is this year's portion of a grant for $1.7 million, and we have $593,500 from the Metropolitan Regional Road Group for works on Marine Parade from Wharton to Pearce Streets. Now, Council has also funded many projects from municipal funds, not grant funding, which includes reserves, and these are significant major projects: ongoing Civic Centre office refurbishments, groin access ramp works, playground upgrades, South Cottesloe toilets, plant and machinery replacements, right-of-way upgrades, Cottesloe Village Centre precinct plan, local planning strategy review, town planning scheme, completion of the ERP implementation, completion of the asset management plan and the green infrastructure management plan. So quite significant. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cobby, and that is going to keep staff incredibly busy. I would like to sincerely thank the staff for their efforts in bringing this budget together, particularly to Ms Cobby and her staff in her directorate, and to all of the directorates for providing the input. Ms Cobby's team puts the budget together, and other directorates provide input, and it is a huge, huge job. The detail and professionalism in that process has been really outstanding, and really want to thank the finance team for their involvement, and again, the other directorates for their contribution. And we do recognise that the budget was put together really well at an incredibly busy and tricky time for the organisation while we were introducing the new ERP, and many of the people who were involved in delivering the budget were also delivering that really challenging project. So really hats off to that directorate and to Ms Cobby and all the staff. Thank you. Look, I'm going to move that the officer's recommendation in respect of the budget, which is on page 15. 15 to 17. Do I have a seconder for the budget? Councillor Thomas. Look, I think I've said everything. I really thank the CEO and Ms Cobby for outlining what's in the budget. There's some fantastic projects still to be done, and the focus on responsible fiscal management is particularly appreciated, and we, I guess, are very fortunate in leadership in the organisation that we are managed in a fiscally very responsible way. So I don't have anything further to say on that. Councillor Thomas, did you want to say anything?
I'll reserve my right to speak.
Okay, thank you. We have had a couple of amendments, so does anyone... Yeah, Councillor Harkins?
Would you like me to?
Yeah.
Yes. I believe you have a copy of this. That the officer's recommendation be amended by inclusion of the following additional paragraph. And I think it would just go at the end, point number 11, point number 12, I'm assuming. And the item is request the CEO, prior to consideration of the mid-year budget review, to bring to council a policy for the payment of childcare expenses for elected members' attendance at council meetings and training. If I have a seconder.
Seconder, Councillor Wilenko.
Thank you. I'll just point out initially that this is not just a wish list item, it's actually a legal requirement. The state's local government regulations entitle elected members with dependent children to claim for childcare expenses incurred because of the member's attendance at a council meeting or a meeting of a committee of which they are also a member, and for mandatory training attendance. Now, this has never actually been
enacted in Cottesloe due to the past demographic of town of Cottesloe councillors. Some of you may be familiar with the term male, pale and stale. But we have thankfully moved on, and encouraging younger members of council definitely brings a diversity of views, and I think that needs to be encouraged, and this is one way of making sure we're not missing out on that demographic. They have been traditionally underrepresented, and it's important that we hear from. The childcare expenses may be a barrier to some young parents opting to serve on council. A policy can set out the details of what expenses will be reimbursed and the process for claiming the reimbursement, noting that the regulations stipulate a maximum amount, and currently it's $35 per hour, and it's very set out on how you can claim it. Having clarity around this issue will signal to young parents that council and the community does value their contribution. The budget impacts will be limited, and of course it can be considered in the context of the mid-year review. So I would urge you to make sure that we are sticking by the local government regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walinko.
Thank you. As a councillor who may fit at least part of that MPS acronym, hopefully not the last bit, I think it's really important that we bring this forward. I'm quite surprised that we don't actually have this already within the council to encourage people who do have, young children to be able to get on council, because it's a demanding role. And I do have 3 kids, but they're all older now, so they don't take my attention quite as much as they used to, and I'm not sure that I could have done this role had they still had the young kids. But I know there are a number of councillors here that do, and I think it's important that we encourage councillors or people from that demographic who, would otherwise not be able to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Did anyone want to speak against the motion? Well, I'll commend Councillor Harkins for bringing it, and I will put it to the vote. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Now, there's yes, Councillor Bulbeck. I think there might be a few questions on this, but do you want to read the... Perhaps we can ask questions first.
Oh, okay.
Because it might make the difference as to whether it's seconded. I just wanted to clarify the sustainability initiatives that are to have arisen or anticipated to arrive from implementation of strategies, policies and programs. I don't... are you referring to the sustainability officer and the work that is the sustainability officer going to be engaged in time for the mid-year budget review?
Madam Mayor, it'll be close. But whether they're engaged in time to actually do this review, that might be difficult. But it actually, can I just say, it actually depends. I think you're probably where we've got a 0.67 officer at the moment, and it depends on the way we reshape the position. We actually... I would hope you'd recognise that's sort of my role to have some flexibility there. There might be that the person wants to come on full-time. They might not want to come on full-time. We might be able to look for that person earlier, but I've got to juggle that within the realms of the budget. So I don't want to say no at this stage, because certainly my intention was to start some of the sustainability work well before then. Okay. The Director and I have been talking about how we can commence that process as early as possible. So, I'd like to. I just don't know whether the person will be on board or not.
Okay. I just thought earlier you said it would be at the back end of...
The original intent, you're quite right, Madam Mayor, was that a 0.5 officer would probably start January, February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So, Councillor Bulbeck, do you want to read the motion and...
Yep. That the officer's recommendation be amended by inclusion of the following additional paragraph to be numbered appropriately. Requests the CEO, prior to consideration of the mid-year budget review, to bring to Council a proposal for additional expenditure in the line item sustainability initiatives to cover initiatives that have arisen or are anticipated to arise from implementation of strategies, policies and programs. I guess that would be relevant strategies, policies and programs.
Do you have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sadler.
I might have some questions, but I am happy to second it.
Okay, so it is seconded. I'm just wondering if it is worded with sufficient clarity. You said, are you comfortable that it's worded with clarity?
Madam Mayor, I think one of the dilemmas is the timing. I actually endorse that through this process of review that we're going to come up with some priorities that council might want to find funds for, whether that's budget review or next year's budget, I don't know, but, you know, so it's just a timing issue. As I was saying previously, Sean and I have been actually talking about his KPIs for next year's, and one of those was going to be in terms of doing this review and bringing our sustainability objectives together, and that probably would have started even prior to any new employment. But I actually can't tell you how easy this is going to be until we actually do that work.
I think my concern was just more, is it clear what's expected of you, regardless of the timing? Because I guess the report could be, if the timing isn't right, it could just be, the proposal could be that you haven't got the information. And but are you comfortable that you know what is expected of the administration in the wording?
Madam Mayor, the difficulty is additional expenditure, the term additional expenditure. I'm actually happy to come to council with the priorities. I think it's then for council to determine do they wish to put them on, find funds from this year, which may be difficult, or do they want to prioritise them for the following year's budget? So the wording's probably not quite what I'd like. It's not about additional expenditure. It's about us bringing to council a report that starts to rationalise the priorities of the council.
Councillor Bulbeck, would that comment make you inclined to perhaps change the wording, and if your seconder agrees to that, then?
So it would be to bring a report? Is that what you're suggesting, to count for?
Is it to bring to council a proposal for priorities? For sustainability priorities? Is that what you're after?
For consideration at the mid-year budget review.
By March.
I'm certainly wanting to.
Yeah, well.
But then those considerations will be at the mid-year. You're actually going to consider what we're doing financially at the mid-year budget review.
So,
It's a regular report in March.
It is the mid-year budget review.
yeah, that's when the mid-year budget review. And the reason I said March was because there may not be funds. You know, so I don't want to preempt reallocation of funding until we've identified them, and then the other process is identify how we're travelling financially. So to preempt there's going to be money is probably a bit wrong at this stage of the year.
Can I maybe ask a question through the chair of the CEO, just to revert? I mean, what I'm trying to achieve here is that if there are going to be initiatives, that the present $18,000 only covers things we're already doing. So is the budget flexible enough that if additional things are proposed by the Sustainability Officer within this present 12 months, we could find money to do it? I'm happy not to bring this amendment but, you know, in the past when I've wanted things to happen, I've been told there's no money in the budget for them. So that's really what I'm trying to get at, is to build some flexibility, and the money doesn't have to be spent if we don't get to that point, but there's the capacity to do some sustainability initiatives in the next 12 months if things unfold that way. So that's what I'm looking for.
And Madam Mayor, I think we're just preempting the process. I think we're sort of getting ahead of us. Let's do the review. Let's identify the priorities. Let's then look at, you know, the funding required to deliver some of those priorities. And then if council wants to vote money this financial year, they can. Otherwise, they might refer it to next year's budget. I just think we're sort of getting ahead of it. Because some of these, for example, $18,000 is not a great deal of money. You know, some of these projects might be $30,000 and $40,000.
Right.
And therefore, they might not be able to be funded this year. And I'd really like council to put a bit of work behind what they're trying to achieve.
But then I think informed by a report is what you're suggesting.
So
right?
what is the wording? I'm just going to ask Councillor Bulbeck, what is the wording of the motion?
It sounds to me like, and Councillor Sadler might be able to help me. Yeah, yes.
Listening while you were talking.
Yep.
I just thought if it meets the requirements of the administration time-wise, request the CEO to bring a report to council regarding funding for sustainability initiatives for consideration at the mid-year budget review. So that means the report happens before the mid-year budget review, but then we're actually considering it at the mid-year budget review, which means we are considering
I think you talked to that though. Can you just read that really clearly so that we can be sure that Ms Pilkington has it recorded?
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry.
Do you want me to read it, Councillor Bullock?
Can I make the
might have it,
suggestion,
yes.
please, that
So,
Councillor
request
Bulbeck,
the
can I
CEO
just make the
sorry.
suggestion that you withdraw your original motion?
Yes, and
And
this-
that
replace
it be
it with this.
replaced with
Yes.
this.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
yes.
so the Councillor Bulbeck's original motion is withdrawn, and an alternative motion, an alternative amendment is put forward in the following terms, which is?
So, and Councillor Sadler can help correct me if I haven't captured it, but request the CEO to bring a report to council regarding funding of sustainability initiatives for consideration at the budget review. Is that what we're looking for?
At the mid-year, yeah.
The mid-year budget review.
Request the CEO to bring a report to council.
Regarding funding of sustainability initiatives for consideration at the mid-year budget review.
And Councillor Sadler, you're seconding that? Okay, Councillor Bulbeck, do you want to just speak to that, please?
It's, I think we've covered it, so if I can just reiterate, obviously I'm delighted that we're thinking of we have now got in the budget an allocation for a sustainability officer. I'm just concerned that the money to support those initiatives, the $18,000 that's the present line item, may not be enough, and the CEO seems to have confirmed that possibility. So I just want there to be the possibility to implement some of those sustainability initiatives within the next 12 months, or probably within the period after the mid-year budget review, rather than have to wait until the next iteration of the budget, if council so approves.
Thank you. Councillor Sadler?
Thank you. I would speak in favour of this amendment, and the reasons for doing so are twofold. Firstly is that the administration has signalled that there is some work to be done in this space, and so if we're actually employing an officer, then we want to actually potentially have the capacity to carry out some initiatives that arise from that appointment that align with the council plan. And secondly, I really do trust the administration to present a mid-year budget review that actually balances other priorities. So we're not asking to prioritise this above other things. We're asking it to be considered at the mid-year budget review. So we're not hamstringing ourselves doing this. We're actually empowering the administration to look in this direction, and we already know that they are guided by our council plan and our strategic documents, and we're just saying, can this lens be run over it so that we can actually balance that, and if we've got some increased capacity because we're actually doing better than we are expecting in the mid-year budget, that we can actually start implementing some of the things which we're desiring to do. If we don't have the capacity, then I would trust the administration to recommend accordingly. So I think it's a really simple amendment which does capture some of the value adds that we're trying to do as a community that do align with our council plan. Thank you.
Does anyone want to speak against? Councillor Harkins?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak against the amendment simply because I think it's the work of the administration. I think dictating one area over another is not our role. And so it's got nothing to do with the fact that it's sustainability. I think we've all agreed that we've increased the FTEs, so I think we're all on board with sustainability. But we all want, as Councillor Bulbeck said, she wants to make sure it's in the budget in case something comes up. Well, we've all got our wish list that we'd love to have some reviews stashed in there so that we can bring it. So I think it's prioritising one area over another, and I trust in our CEO and our departments that they will bring it to council if there is a pressing need, that once the sustainability officer has examined it, it will come to council. So I have utmost faith in letting the administration deal with that. So that's why I won't be supporting the amendment tonight.
Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I'd like to speak against it further to Councillor Harkin's point. I think regarding the timing, if we don't have the sustainability officer on board before the mid-year budget review, we're effectively preempting their mandate and what their focus will be. So I think it's not the right timing, and I support your points that you made as well.
Does anyone else want to speak in favour? I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? That's Councillor Bulbeck, and against, that's the balance. So that amendment is lost, which doesn't mean the cause is lost. We'll get there. So back to the substantive motion. Were there any other amendments on the budget? We've spoken to it. Did anyone want to speak against the budget? Well, I will put it to the vote. All in favour? And that is passed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. The next item is the Marine Parade Shared Path Public Consultation on page 25. And the officer's recommendation is on page... let me see, page 33, thank you. But Councillor Sadler, you're moving an alternative motion? Yeah, so do you want to
Thank you. It is quite long, but I will read it out. So it is...
Can I just ask, before you do that, is it possible for us to get a copy of the alternative motion on screen for the benefit of... Yeah, sorry. Mm-hmm. Do we have a spare copy that we could give to? Do we have a spare copy?
Vicky's got one.
Miss Cobby. Okay, Councillor Sadler, thank you.
Thank you. My alternate motion is as follows, that Council 1 thanks the community for taking time to respond to the survey. 2, endorses the attached high-level concept design for consideration by the consultants carrying out detailed design. 3, requests the administration to include the community consultation for consideration by the consultants as part of the design process. And 4, supports A, separation of the shared path from beach access entry points, option 2 for conflict 1 of the community consultation, where space and safety permits. B, further investigation of design solutions by the consultant for Dutch Inn Playground, conflict location 2, including but not limited to bringing the path to the east of the playground. C, implementation of the Foreshore Master Plan design solution at North Cottesloe, conflict location 3, within the constraints of the grant. Point 5, request the administration to include the following principles for the consultants. A, alignment and integration with the Foreshore Master Plan in terms of design and materials of the shared path and zones. B, rationalisation and removal of redundant infrastructure to maximise the design outcome and minimise long-term asset maintenance issues and restore green space where possible. C, path width design and surface treatments are chosen to prioritise a low-speed environment suiting the needs of all ages and abilities, walking and riding the path. D, minimising the loss of green space, acknowledging that some green space loss is required. E, minimise the loss of car bays while acknowledging that some car bay loss is needed in constrained sites. F, that the path in the foreshore area south of Indiana Tees House use surface treatments and design that align with the foreshore master plan. This will ensure integration with the master plan and the Indiana development. 6, request the administration to investigate using existing and future grant funding opportunities to implement treatments that will improve safety for vulnerable road users of Marine Parade. And 7, request the administration to provide a copy of this resolution and rationale to the consultants as part of their briefing documents.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Thomas. Councillor Sadler, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you. And firstly, just to thank the administration because we have got a significant grant opportunity here, and I know the time constraints have been really challenging for the administration, so thank you for doing the best you can in a very challenging situation. The community has provided us as council with valuable advice regarding their continued support for the project, and that their views are fairly mixed regarding preferred design outcomes. So the community views are still going to need to be balanced against safety recommendations of the consultant and the requirements of the WA Department of Transport. So I want to acknowledge the support of the community while also recognising that we'll do our best to implement their wishes, but know that there are constraints which, because we're not experts in path design, so I want that to be reflected in the resolution. I also think it's really important to acknowledge this is not a greenfield site, that it's a really narrow site, much narrower than other areas, and so the community's repeatedly said they want some improvements, but I think that's hard to actually realise that that actually comes with constraints and compromise. The community really highly values the green space. That came out really strongly, while also wanting a more functional path. The Department of Transport does allow narrower paths, narrower than the standard 4 metres in constrained sites. And I think this resolution supports this approach, and I'm really wanting the organisation to strongly advocate for us to have a narrower path while still making it more functional. It's not possible to widen the shared path without giving up some other existing uses, and those are car bays and green space. So really, if we're wanting to do this, we're going to actually have to have some compromise. Removal of some car bays will increase the will minimise the increase in hard stand surfaces on the foreshore, and will limit the amount of loss of green space. And also by allowing some removal of car bays, it actually increases the design flexibility to provide the safest design solution. I think it's not up to us as elected members to say what the safest design solution is. We've actually got to allow the consultant some flexibility with regard to green space and car bays, and to help us to make those compromises on behalf of the community. The grant has created an opportunity to review our ageing infrastructure. We have a lot of ageing infrastructure. We have an asset management problem, as most local governments do. So if we can remove any redundant infrastructure, then that's going to be a great thing for us to do. And it's also going to, putting in this path is actually going to improve the town's asset management issues going forward. The Foreshore Master Plan, moving on to that, that was an incredibly rigorous community engagement, and so I think it's really important that we draw those principles out of that and make sure that we don't end up, particularly at North Cottesloe, implementing something which doesn't align with the master plan. This will get an outcome which really makes the whole foreshore fit for purpose. And in the area south of Indiana and north of Cottesloe Surf Lifesaving Club, I'm particularly keen that it remains a really beautiful, attractive area for Sculpture by the Sea. Lastly, the community consultation did provide us with really good reflections that Marine Parade feels unsafe for people who are walking, people who are riding, people who are crossing that road, using grant opportunities as they arise for improvements in safety on Marine Parade would be also a good use of resources. The administration did speak tonight with regard to our current use of grants and how that has been useful for managing to keep rates reasonable. And so I'd like to be able to apply that to the Marine Parade situation and improve safety of the community. So for all those reasons, I'd like you to support this motion. And just summing up, this motion has a bit more nuance to it than the officer's recommendation, and while I respected that recommendation, I think that this actually gives some high-level principles which will actually give greater detail and end up with a better outcome for the community than purely just talking in details around the specific location. So I should have really said that at the front end. This gives greater opportunity and more information to the consultants about really what the community has been wanting for in terms of a path, where, say, use of materials and width are really important to the community. I really wanted that to be conveyed. So I do hope you support my recommendation so that we can progress the item 13.1.2, I believe it is, which is the
Thank you.
consultants' choice.
Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Sadler, for putting the alternate motion together. I would really, yes, support what Councillor Sadler has said. The consultation, I think, was really good in providing different concepts and challenges to the community and eliciting some really valuable feedback. But I think what we've seen is that there's not a clear solution for every single challenge that's been identified, and we're not in a position to decide on final options and endorse specific options at this point, which is what's included in the officer's recommendation. So I think the path forward that Councillor Sadler has put is sound, which is to provide the data, the feedback and the principles which we can clearly elicit, and that will help the consultants to really get the best solution. I do have two questions regarding it, if that's all right. So the first one, Councillor Sadler, I think one of the key principles is that there should be a clear tie-in to the Eric Street shared path, and I'm just not sure with regards to point 4C in your alternative motion whether that is covered. As you've said, implement the North Cottesloe location aligned to the Foreshore Master Plan. So do you think that is covered by that?
I'd rather it was sort of directed to the administration in terms of whether that's still going to be communicated, because I don't. It may have been communicated through other things and it's not necessarily to be tied into this. So I just wanted to sort of check with the administration.
It doesn't look like it is.
Through the chair, it is in my view that by virtue of point number 2 endorses the attached high-level concept, would cover that, because the high-level concept itself does cover a crossing at this point. So I think that should be sufficient for us to progress that. Thank you.
Yep.
And you had another question?
Yes, thank you. That answers that question. And then, so I did raise a question regarding the potential for increased design expertise regarding active transport. So my question is that something that should be considered as part of this motion or as part of the motion for the tender?
It's a really good question. Madam Mayor, I actually think probably we should await the discussion on the tender, and it might be that at that stage you want to add an extra motion to that stage.
Thanks. I'm happy with that.
Councillor Valenco?
Thank you. I really support this proposed alternate motion, but I do have two small amendments to propose, if I might go into them.
Yeah.
One is this is really minor, but 4B, I think there's a word missing, including but not limited to bringing the path to the east of the playground. So I assume you're happy with that, okay.
Yep.
The second thing is that in item 7, where we're proposing to provide a copy of the resolution and the rationale, I would propose we drop the words "and rationale." And the reason for that is because...
Councillor Valenco, are you moving that as an amendment?
Yes, I'm moving that as an amendment, so I need a
seconder.
second.
I'll second that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The reason for this is because the resolution is, of course, representative of the council, but the rationale has been provided by the councillor moving the motion. And so,
if the second is happy to remove, I'm really happy to remove rationale.
okay.
Thank you, thank you. And,
Sorry, and otherwise I support the motion. Thank you.
yeah, thank you, thank you. Councillor Heath, you had amendments.
Yes, but firstly, before I get to my amendment, I have a question about 4C, the implementation of the Foreshore Master Plan design being within the constraints of the grant. When I looked at the Foreshore Master Plan there, where the path went, it actually was a bit hard to tell at a small scale on my computer. Looked like it took out all of those car parks that is in that current car park between Magic Apple, the car park south of Magic Apple. So I just wanted to check, is that what Councillor Sadler's 4C means?
Through the chair, that's correct. So in the ultimate foreshore master plan that council approved in 2019, that entire area becomes a shared zone whereby all car parks are removed.
Okay, so I would like to propose an amendment to.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
It's just with regard to my understanding of the... My understanding of that location is that the angle parking is removed and it's replaced by parking which is parallel parking on the road. So there are fewer bays, but it's not removal of all bays, and that was adopted following the big community consultation. So that's my understanding, but I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, that is correct.
Madam Mayor, I think that's correct. I think the 11 bays or 12 bays, I think that would reduce to 5 or 6 bays because they would be parallel bays.
And can I just ask a question? If council has endorsed the master plan, it can be taken that that is council's endorsed position. Would that require well, I guess we'll wait to see what the amendment moved is going to be.
Yes, well, I'm just doing a bit on the hop because now I've got the definitive answer there. So I would like to insert the officer's recommendation for the location 3, conflict location 3, which also considers feedback of the Surf Life Saving Club, because I think we've lost that in Councillor Sadler's amendment, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think that's an alternative motion because it kind of negates the intent of at least a part of Councillor Sadler's. So that would have to be moved as an alternative motion, which you can foreshadow. I think that is right. Yeah.
Generally, a motion that negates part of another motion is seen as an alternative, and you can't really amend the motion to change it to your clause.
Okay, so I will foreshadow that amendment.
Just as a point of order, does it actually negate? Because I think what I just heard you say is the only thing you'd change is you'd add in C, number 2, which is to instruct the CEO to consider the feedback.
No, I'd also add, sorry, C1 and 2.
Oh, adopt option 2?
Yes.
Oh, okay, then it does, yeah.
And what I would imagine that you foreshadow is a resolution in the terms of Councillor Sadler's motion with that change.
Yes.
So that's your foreshadowed motion.
Yes, and should I deal with my amendment now then?
Yeah.
So my amendment, which I think you should all have, it works with either the officer's recommendation or Councillor Sadler's recommendation.
At the moment, we're moving it in respect of Councillor Sadler's.
So it's a new number 6, and then the numbers are moved down. Instructs the CEO to work with the Department of Transport to ensure that, number 1, The final surface treatment and colour of the shared path is befitting of the Cottesloe Foreshores iconic coastal environment. The colour of the path should be in keeping with the current soft greens and greys of the Cottesloe Foreshore. And 2, the shared path is designed to be as narrow as is allowed for such shared paths and is not more than 3 metres in width.
And a seconder. I will certainly second that, thank you.
And I'll read the rationale. The Cottesloe foreshore is unique compared to other suburban foreshores in WA for a number of reasons, including that it is a very natural environment with little built structures, and there is only a very narrow strip, sometimes only a few metres between the road and the sand dunes. The predominant colours of the Cottesloe foreshore are greys and soft greens. The current path is predominantly light grey. There are predominantly sand dunes with native vegetation to the west of the path and grass sometimes reticulated to the east of the path. The Department of Transport recommends that shared paths are red, but this colour would unnecessarily stand out and not be in keeping with the colours of the Cottesloe foreshore. The current path is light grey, and this has always been sufficient to delineate the path from the vegetated areas. The current path is 2 metres to 3 metres wide, with large sections only 2 metres wide. A large increase in the path width, in some cases a 100% increase if the path is constructed to the 4 metres width, is not necessary and would result in unnecessary loss of green space, car parks, and would not allow for landscaping along it that would provide shade and increase our canopy.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. I'll just speak very briefly in favour. This is a federally funded project and it is currently being driven by state. It's under state oversight and being driven by state requirements. It's not going to deliver the best outcome in terms of the width and the visuals, the aesthetics. I think that the community and the feedback that we got really does support. The community wants a path that is fit for purpose, and its primary purpose is a pedestrian path for other users as well. And also it is in, as Councillor Heath has said, the most beautiful, natural, iconic location, and it's also a really very narrow location. So replacing what's there with a very visually impactful red path, I think, is not the best outcome. I think that we can get what our community wants by limiting the width of the path and by ensuring that its materiality and tone and colour and whatever is right for its location. I think it will give a far better outcome. So for those reasons, I support the amendments. Councillor Thomas?
Yes, I'd like to speak against this amendment. So on the point 1, I do support the intent of choosing the materials and colour to befit the environment. Absolutely. But regarding point 2, which says the path should be no more than 3 metres in width versus the 4 metres, which is currently the provision for this type of path. I would say that yes, narrower paths can reduce the speed, and we do want a low speed path. That's I think we can all agree to that. But on the other hand, a narrower path can also make it harder to pass and can increase conflicts between users that are going at different speeds. And if you sort of took this to the next step, well, why not have a 2 metre path, which is what we have at the moment, and therefore not do anything? So, I mean, the point I'm making is, you know, why is 4 metres better? Why is 3 metres better? I don't know. And I think that that's the role of the design consultant to tell us what that width should be, how we can lower that speed and manage conflicts and get the best outcome. So I guess on that basis, I don't support the motion, but I do support the intent that we find the right colour and materials, and that we choose the most appropriate width, and that we're not beholden to the requirements dictated by the Department of Transport, so we can actually get what is best for our community. And I do think that is already covered in the alternate motion, specifically points 5A and 5C. And, I would possibly foreshadow another amendment if this amendment doesn't pass, which is to the effect of making it clear that we should challenge the requirements that are dictated by the Department of Transport to ensure the solution best fits the community's needs.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Now I saw Councillor Councillor Mason, and then Councillor Harkin.
I really have a question, actually, for the administration. Can you tell us, given the nature of this path, which is it's not the same as a path next to the railway, for example, it's not as I understand, a major path. What are the Department of Transport requirements regarding width and colour?
Through the chair. So based on the Department of Transport's bike planning manual, the minimum width for this shared path is 3 meters. It's classed as a primary route. In terms of surface finishes, the guidelines require the path to be red for the purpose of delineation. It's a primary road. It's very similar to Curtin Avenue. Only difference with Curtin Avenue, it's more of a regional connector. This one is more of a local connector connecting to a regional connector. 3 meters is the minimum, ideally 4, but 3 meters, we can go with 3 meters within reason, if we can find reasons why it should be 3 meters.
Yes, Councillor Mason, can I just, before you speak, I might just, I'm aware that the CEO has had conversations with the federal agency handling the project, and I wonder if it might be worthwhile.
Yes, Madam Mayor. And can I just say at the outset, this is one, really complicated, and two, I sort of really apologise that we could have done one another week to have a workshop, because it actually needs drawings on the board and actually work through it. It's very hard in the council format to work through this. So my apologies for that. The time constraints just haven't allowed it. And so we're caught in a situation where we're almost workshopping in a council meeting, which is very difficult, despite what some might say. Because of incredible interest from the elected members over the last week on this, I felt it was important for me to ring the federal government agency and talk to them about, one, potential time delays, were no problems there, and two, what their rules were. And now they're pretty specific here. Their rules are it shall be a path greater than 2.5 metres. They're not worried about colour, and all they wanted is to be constructed appropriately. So it's really a path of at least 2.5 metres of any colour constructed appropriately. Unfortunately, they auspice it to the state government through DOT, whose rules are far more difficult on us. It again becomes a bit more complicated because at the moment we have dedicated as a primary path route, and for a primary path route the standard normally is 4 metres and red asphalt. Okay, that's not to say that can't be changed, and quite clearly, as Sean said, 3 metres is the minimum size. And to be quite frank, if you actually were to be able to parcel this project up and look at every piece of the project, there's very little of it that can actually be delivered easily at 4 metres. There might be a few little bits where you have a run at 4 metres, but then you'd be going from 4 to 3 and 3 to 4 again, and you'd be losing some of the emphasis on it. It is because of a whole range of things. And can I say to you, we've also spent the Department of Transport today, so and they were pretty lenient with respect to discussions about 3 metres. I think the colour's probably a bigger issue for us, and we're going to have to work through that. But I think we should, and I think we should apply whatever tactics we can to convince that this is not your normal red path in the outback, and this is actually in the middle of a pretty pristine space. So that's where we got to today, and I think probably what I mean is the council's actually pretty aligned on most of this. We do need to try and convince state government to come along with us, well, state government agency to come on board with us with respect to the colour, but I don't think the 3 metres is particularly an issue for us. It will be very difficult to deliver 4 metres in most of those spaces.
Can I just say, I've got a list of, I've got Councillor Mason, Harkins, Bulbeck and Irvine. Were you going to...
question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify whether using the word ensure is going to create any problems in terms of timelines and administration of the grant, or whether actually the word ensure is actually going to be useful in terms of your discussions with the Department of Transport. So ensure is a very strong word. It means that you require it pretty much, we require it not to be read, and that something's going to have to come back to council if your final words from the Department of Transport is that they require it to be read. So I just want to understand the word ensure really in terms of the implications, because if that word is a benefit to the administration, then I'm supportive of it.
It goes back to its political
If I can, Madam Mayor, look, I think as the council stating its very strong preference and directing the officers to negotiate. Now, look, if we can't get any movement, I think we come back to council and talk to council about that situation. But I think it is pretty clearly stating council's position. The other thing is here, there's 6 months of design to come here yet. So we actually have time to talk, have honest conversations. It doesn't have to be a fight because, I think we're in a pretty clear position where this is a pretty unique space, and I think we should be able to sell it. So I'm relatively happy whichever way we go. I must admit I drafted some words which were slightly different to this. I did tell Councillor Heath that, because I'm always a negotiator and always start with that in mind. But I think this might be one council wanting to say, yes, this is our position.
I'm going to let Councillor... Is it a question? And then I will come back to you, Councillor Mason.
So just a follow-up question. I think that's a very valid point. And is it definitely not going to slow down the process? If we were to put request rather than ensure, because what if you can't get it? Does that then have to come back to rescind?
Oh, well, through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that might be the case that we need to come back and revisit it.
And will that be an issue time-wise?
Well, as I say, we've got 6 months of design. There's a stage where we're probably going to bring it back to council, 50% design for a talk to council about what it looks like so far. So I don't think so, no.
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a really tricky situation, as we can see from the comments from our community in the survey. This is our biggest asset, the Cottesloe foreshore. I think we absolutely aren't requesting. I think nobody wants a 4-metre wide red ribbon running down Marine Parade. I think the community would be outraged. So I think we absolutely need to ensure, and I support Councillor Heath's motion in that regard, that we need to have a say on the colour and the surface treatment and its width. We don't have 4 metres in a lot of it. I am very supportive of it not being more than 3 metres in width. And so that is why I am supportive of Councillor Heath's motion, but I am going to be speaking against when we get to it Councillor Sadler's, because I believe that the officer's recommendation is less prescriptive.
Right, so I had Councillor Harkins next. I do have my little list.
So if I may, Mayor, through the chair, to ask Mr Khan, the area, for example, I'm talking about the width, near the sump where we redid the path in the design of the foreshore master plan, that pagoda thing that collapsed in a storm. Do you know where I'm talking about? Opposite Napier Street. Is that 4 metres? Like when it was rebuilt in the design, is that 4 metres, that section? Sorry, it's,
Through the chair, it would be at least 3 meters to comply with footpath requirements. I doubt it would be 4 meters, but I will need to probably take that on
Yeah.
notice and come back.
thank you. So I'm wondering, Councillor Heath, whether you'd be interested in splitting your amendments, because I'm a bit like Councillor Thomas. I'm extremely happy with point 1 about the colour, but I do wonder if there are the odd spot that's very busy and built up. If we can get 4 metres, then it might be handy to have 4 metres. I think we've learnt that there are majority we can't, but if there's the odd bit, and particularly like near beach access paths and things, if we do have the luxury of 4, I'd hate to be saying, no, you wanted only 3. So for me, if we could split them, I would be very happy if you were interested in that.
I think that actually.
Oh.
It's Michael.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's who's?
No, it's aye.
It's Councillor Heath's motion, though.
Yeah, but it's
amendment.
Presiding members call on whether you split the motion.
Oh, sorry.
But look, it is the presiding members' call on splitting complex motions, and I wonder if there is an alternative way by just the inclusion of the word is generally not more than 3 metres in width, whether that would allow a little bit of flexibility the way that Councillor Harkins has indicated. And as the seconder of the motion, I'm happy to, is generally.
Can I just ask a question, just since we're on that clause, on the wording, it says the shared path is designed to be as narrow as is allowed for such paths and generally not more than 3 metres. But we've learned that for these paths, it could be, just has to be greater than 2.5 metres. So are we therefore saying that we want it to be 2.5 metres, if that's the case?
Not more than 2.5 to 3 metres. 2.5 to generally 3.
I actually think that Councillor Thomas has a point that if we're saying it has to be as narrow as is allowed, and if it is allowed to be 2.5...
Could be allowed to be 1 metre, you know.
Madam Mayor, could I come in there?
Yeah.
This is where it gets complicated, because yes, the federal government is saying, from their perspective, 2.5 metres, but we're still under the auspices of the state, of the DOT, who are saying minimum size 3. And I don't know we necessarily want to pick a fight over that.
My point is not to argue that it's just that the way it's written leaves it very open to interpretation, because as narrow is allowed, we don't have that definition. So if we want it to be 2.5 to 3 metres, we should say 2.5 to 3 metres, instead of saying it should be as narrow as is allowed. That's my point.
Councillor Heath, it's over to you because it's your motion. I'm just going back to see how... I've got you down, but I've got Councillor Harkins and Councillor Bulbeck before you. Yeah. Unless it's, throwing in that's directly relevant to Councillor Thomas's. Yep. Thank you. Councillor Heath, it's your...
Yes,
it's your wording.
I would like, it, now that we've had the questions and we've heard the 2.5, I would like to say is designed to be 2.5 metres where allowed, and generally not more than 3 metres in width.
Yeah, I will. So the wording would be the shared path is designed to be 2.5 metres where allowed for such shared paths and generally not more than 3 metres in width. Are we okay with that?
I mean, I'm suspecting Sean and I are both feeling uncomfortable with 2.5. I think we will struggle with DOT getting approval for a 2.5 metre path. And I think we have to understand we are operating to some extent under their rules.
Okay, so then the shared path is designed to be generally not more than 3 metres in width.
Yep. Okay, so the wording now is that the shared path is designed to be generally not more than 3 metres in width. As the seconder, I'm happy to adopt that wording. My understanding actually is that we need Councillor Thomas and Mason to agree to the change of wording because they've spoken against the motion. We're changing you just need, Councillor Heath has changed her motion.
I seconded Councillor Sadler's alternative
No,
motion.
you've spoken against this amendment. Yes. Are you happy? You're not voting on it, but we're changing the wording. I thought we were voting on this. No, at the moment, Councillor Heath has put forward alternative wording, which I've adopted. You and Councillor Mason have spoken against it. You're not committed to it, but are you comfortable that we've changed the wording? So that we can then move on and vote. We'll listen to the other.
So I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy that you've taken on board that consideration for the amendment.
Mm-hmm. That's all we need. Yeah, because we'll do the merits. I'm just saying, are you comfortable with that change? Because you have already spoken, you don't get to speak again. So,
okay.
Yeah. Are you, Councillor Mason?
I'm not against it. I'm supportive.
Thank you. So that is the new wording. And my next, I have a note that Councillor Harkins was wanting to speak to the motion. It's now slightly changed.
So if you would indulge me just to one clarification question, Mayor, to the CEO. The word generally, so as it's written currently, will that allow, if there's an area that for me, the consultant thinks this is ideal for 4, just having that word generally will allow that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it will. And I suspect this will be one of those points that at 50% design stage we'll bring back to council. Are you comfortable with this?
Okay. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Do we want the motion split?
I'm fine now.
So, Councillor Bulbeck, you had your hand up, and then Councillor Irvine coming to you. Well, I'm going to Councillor Bulbeck first, and then to, because that's the order in which the hands went up. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Councillor Irvine.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question through the chair to the CEO. Given your experience on these matters, I haven't seen the grant deed or the original offer from federal or through state. Is there any risk with the grant being withdrawn based on us being too prescriptive in our requirements?
From my discussions today, very little risk with the grant at all. They're very positive. As I say, they're very flexible in terms of what they wish to see delivered. So I don't think there's a great deal of risk in that respect at all.
Okay.
Can I have one more follow-up?
Hang on. Councillor Linko, did you speak to it or just ask a question?
I just asked a question.
Okay,
but
so
I've got
you're
another
going
question.
okay.
There was discussion of changing the word ensure, which is highlighted, to requests, and we didn't really land on that.
I thought that we did.
Oh, did we? Is it
Oh.
still ensure or is it request?
It's ensure at the moment.
So I had a question on that.
Okay, Councillor Harkins and then Councillor Heath.
Sorry, my follow-up question is that to the CEO, you said no problem federally, but if the state decide this is not going to work and then it does become in jeopardy, the grant, because the state is saying you have to have it read and you have to have it this, I presume you'll call a special council meeting or something and say we've got an urgent issue here. I'm assuming.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, that was my point. This motion allows us to get, and hopefully the motion later to approve a consultant, lets us get on with the design process. It also lets us get on with the negotiations with TOT in particular. So yes, if if those negotiations aren't being successful, we'll certainly be coming back to council. Yeah.
Councillor Heath.
Oh, do you want me to sum up? Or?
No, it's an amendment, so there's no...
I was just going to point out to Councillor Wellenko that it was the CEO that was comfortable with the word ensures, just to make that clear.
Yeah, and I guess that is a decision of council. So this is Councillor Heath's amendment, which is up there. I'm going to ask all in favour of the amendment. That is, well, I'll do it this way. Against is Councillor Thomas and all others in favour, so that is passed. Thank you. So we're back to the substantive motion. Councillor Mason.
Can I please, I just wanted to speak against Councillor Sadler's motion. I'm actually I understand the intent, I appreciate the intent. I just think that at this stage, it's sufficient to run with the officer's recommendation. I think that it allows enough flexibility for the experts to come to us with the 50% design phase. I don't think we need to over-engineer it. I find that there's a couple of Councillor Sadler's points that are quite prescriptive. Having 5B in the restore green space where possible. I mean, that could be misconstrued that if there's, say, at North Cottesloe, for example, it's green space or car bay, that they will prefer green space over the car bay, and that's potentially not correct for that area. So I am just happy to leave it at the officer's recommendation and then see what the experts come up with, and at the 50% design phase we can get into the nitty-gritty, and I think that is more open. I also have concerns about the path being to the east of the playground. As a regular visitor to that playground with the rest of the parents of Cottesloe, it's such a great amenity. I really don't understand where it would go to the east of the playground, because the playground is up against the road with the safety barriers of the rocks and vegetation for the children. So I don't understand that point, and I'd be very happy just to go with what the officers are recommending. Thank you.
And so you're going to foreshadow?
I am going to foreshadow the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Look, I will speak very briefly in favour of the substantive motion, and I think there's been a lot of work put into this. It is such a difficult and tricky and challenging project. It was always going to be. We knew that we're retrofitting into an established, highly trafficked and physically really very constrained site. We always knew that this was going to be a challenging project. And look, from my point of view, Councillor Sadler has really made a lot of sense out of the feedback and brought a really local perspective to it. I think we're all wanting the same things. I've strongly, obviously, endorsed the ensuring that we get the right aesthetic and the right width. But I really would like to thank Councillor Sadler for the work that she's done. As I say, it's never going to be perfect. It simply is not capable of being perfect. But I think that we'll get there. Did anyone else want to speak to the motion? Councillor Bulbeck?
It's largely to reiterate the support that's already been given for this, but I wanted to also thank Councillor Sadler for bringing together both the conversation or the questions that arose at the Agenda Forum and also the feedback from the community and it really highlights that there are sacrifices and compromises that have to be made, and she's articulated for the guidance of the people getting the tender some of those priorities and some of those possibilities. So I really think it adds to what will be going out to the tender to have some more clarity or some more identification of the issues. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Bulbeck. I think we've all spoken to it quite enough. Councillor Sadler, did you want to a right of reply?
Look, thanks very much. Just briefly to say, look, I think that my attempts with some of the point fives in terms of those principles is rather than being more prescriptive, is actually elevating things to principles so that the consultant has really got an idea of the community's understanding and the council's direction regarding respecting the constraints. And I certainly do not want to prescribe what should be done at Dutcham, which again is a really complex site, but actually just wanting to basically open up the conversation so people who do have expertise in safety have got an opportunity to make sure that we don't look at this and go, oh my goodness, had we done something innovative to the east, which may include loss of car bays, we've actually got something which creates a really lovely and enhanced playground for children who are going to want to play and run down to the beach. I don't know, but that was my sort of intent, is just to basically give some greater flexibility, certainly not direction because I'm not a design expert. And I also just want to sort of also, rather than write and reply, just go, I think that based on the additional information from the administration with regard to flexibility around the grant, I'm actually being appreciative of the additional input by Councillor Heath to firm up what I was trying to sort of keep higher level because of my understanding of the grant. So I think that I just wanted to sort of reply on those two issues, and then further to that, just encourage people to support the alternate motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to put it to the vote. All in favour of the substantive motion as amended, that is Councillor... Sorry, I'm having a mental blank. Sadler, Wilenko, Harkins, Mayor Young, Thomas, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Bulbeck. And against the substantive motion, that's Councillor Irvine, Heath and Mason. Thank you. So that motion is passed. Thank you to everyone. So moving on to the next item. Sorry? Oh no, we've got the councillor motion. 11.1.1, councillor motion, prohibition on advertising addictive, unhealthy substances and activities in the town of Cottesloe. Page 38. Councillor Mason?
Councillor Bulbeck first read out the motion, because as I wasn't at the agenda forum, I just had a quick
Well,
question.
look, I don't think we need it read out at this stage because it's already in there. So it's like, yeah, but what was your question?
I was just wondering, it seems to cover, the motion seems to cover the Woodside Nippers program, and I was wondering if that was the intent.
No.
Sorry. No, it relates to future. If it were to go ahead and a policy were prepared that may or may not cover the nippers, that would depend on the elements of the policy. But certainly the other elements of this motion don't. It only relates to the future, not to the past. And therefore, since the nippers are already carrying the Woodside logo on their backs, they will continue to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Bulbeck, you've got your motion. It might be appropriate for an alternative motion to be foreshadowed if there is one. So
I have an alternative motion that I'd like to foreshadow.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Bulbeck's motion?
I'll second it so that things are afoot, or if it's not seconded, does it then just fall
There's
away?
a foreshadowed motion.
Look, I'll probably then just withdraw my second.
Yeah,
I just want to check to make sure there's not. I think it might be.
I think you do, because the foreshadowed motion can only be moved during the debate.
Yeah, so I will second it to get things on foot.
And I'll foreshadow an alternate motion.
Okay. So, Councillor Bulbeck, Sorry, here we go. Sorry, your motion, which is in the agenda pack. So do you want to speak to? Yeah.
Sorry, yes. My main purpose in bringing this motion at this time and asking for the policy to be prepared was to, by August, which has proved to be probably impossible, was to have, to make sure that the town dealt with this issue prior to approving the contract for bus shelters. And I'd also, in the other two parts of it, I'd identified or suggested that the town doesn't, the town continues prohibition of advertising addictive and unhealthy substances and activities until such time as we have a policy to consider. So further advertising that's not already being done. And then I've identified what unhealthy and addictive substances or include in the last paragraph there of the motion, and it's basically things that are either addictive, for example, sugary drinks, fast foods, alcohol, or unhealthy, such as fossil fuels.
Councillor Sadler?
Look, I wanted to get this on foot. I'd like to commend Councillor Bulbeck for really sort of looking to the future with regard to this very shortly to come forward contract with regard to our advertising. But I do see there's another way which is probably tidier and more timely to address this. So while I'm very thankful that this was brought to Council in the interests of public health, I'm aware there's a foreshadowed motion which I will be supporting. Thank you.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Mason?
Yeah, I have some concerns. Just reading through some of the accuracy of the information in the rationale. I obviously don't have time to fact check all of the data, but I did notice there was one obvious mistake with regarding the global deaths from fossil fuels versus tobacco, the WHO attributes global annual deaths from tobacco at 7 million in their report late last year. So I just, it seems to be out by a factor of about 50, because it's stated as 150,000. So I just really wanted to, I guess, underscore why we let the administration conduct research rather than EMs, and the administration will also bring forward a balanced, well-researched argument or evidence. So that was probably one of the things that I wanted to mention. I also, obviously we can be very sensible around the Cancer Council, and I note their deputation, which was forwarded to all of the elected members before the meeting. And I think we just can have a really common sense approach to unhealthy eating and fast food and alcohol. And I think it makes perfect sense to take that approach on our bus shelters, on our beach, based on Cancer Council research and obviously the undeniable facts of unhealthy eating, especially aimed at our children. Point 3 of the motion, which resolves a policy for prohibiting advertising throughout the town, is probably a bit of an overreach. I know Councillor Bulbeck has clarified that it wouldn't impact the nippers, but we also don't have the power to stop private advertising across the town. For example, shop owners can place advertisements in their windows, and in the local law they can have portable signs adjacent to the business. I know the news agency does this. So I don't believe that council can resolve to add restrictions to the local law. So I just think that it is not a one-size-fits-all policy. I know that 2 of the local governments quoted in the Cancer Council audit have used a policy approach, so I don't think we need a policy per se. Fremantle was based on extensive stakeholder engagement over sort of 29 months. They did 8 weeks of community consultation and workshops, really extensive consultation, and after 8 weeks they had 48% strongly oppose. So I don't think we need a policy, as we really don't have advertising on public land that doesn't get through without council approval. So we have the bus shelters, we have bins, we have obviously the Nippers Life-Saving Program, but all of those contracts come to council, so we don't need a policy, in my opinion. And only Mandurah and Kwinana have gone down the policy route. So in summary, as I was saying, I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all remedy. In Cottesloe, we have the Lottery West Skate Park, we have the Woodside Nippers, and also possible advertising dollars for Chevron City to Surf, which may be advertised throughout the town for that great community event. Santos sponsors the Western Force and the Wallabies, who have visited Harvey Field. So if there's possible advertising dollars, I don't think we can blanket banning across the town for, it's much needed revenue for the town. And if we had the Chevron City to Surf taking out a bus shelter or whatever it is, putting a sign up on a bin for the annual event, are we really going to say no to that much needed revenue, which could mean that we could keep rates down for Cottesloe ratepayers? So I just don't think that we need a policy, and it certainly shouldn't be a blanket one.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Irvine?
I'd also like to speak against, pick up from what Councillor Mason has said around particularly fossil fuels and gas. Firstly, before providing my rationale for being against this, I'd like to say that I am a patrolling member of the Cottesloe Surf Lifesaving Club. I have a bit of a concern around the definition of unhealthy and addictive substance. My rationale is with fossil fuels, and in particular gas. I see gas plays a huge and important critical role in our renewable energy transition. Additionally, companies such as Woodside contribute greatly to the sponsorship of Western Australian surf lifesaving, and in particular the Nippers program. Many millions of dollars, I think to date around $5 million, with commitments going forward. As a patrolling lifeguard, I'm absolutely convinced that sponsorship contributes to saving lives, so I cannot see really how that's an unhealthy or addictive substance or causing harm. I do commend Councillor Bulbeck for bringing up the other items. I do agree about smoking and obviously alcohol, but in this case, I don't see that it's a fit. As a patrolling lifeguard, I'm convinced that this sponsorship from Woodside does save lives, and I've seen that firsthand on the beach, day in, day out through the last seasons through the WA Nippers program.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bulbeck, would you like to a right of reply?
Just to respond, I take Councillor Mason's point about the estimate of the smoking, and it's definitely in the DEA document, but I should have checked it out. I think it probably applies to Australia, but I should have checked out the data because it didn't make sense. You're right about that. Otherwise, all the other data rings true to me, seems to be appropriate to me. Just to say in response both to you and to Councillor Irvine about the loss of revenue or the failure for the Little Nippers to be, or sorry, not the Little Nippers, the whole of the Lifesaving Club to be sponsored, the Cancer Council document that was that we all had an opportunity to look at, and the presentation that was going to be delivered tonight points out, admittedly in relation to bus shelters, not dealing with surf lifesaving, but that there is no problem getting advertising for bus shelters. So we do not need to advertise deadly substances or addictive substances on our bus shelters. Now, the extent to which that does or doesn't apply to other activities in the town, I don't have the research to hand, but I think we do need to be aware that we don't always need to sacrifice some lives in order to save other lives.
Thank you, Councillor Bulbeck. I'm going to put the substantive motion to the vote. All in favour? Councillor Bulbeck, and against? That is the balance, so that motion is lost, but we do have an alternative motion.
Would you like me to read the motion?
Yeah, and is it possible for a copy to be made? It was circulated by... Oh, is it not in your package?
Oh.
11.1? Are you
No.
sure?
11.1.
Haven't eaten it, have you? There we go. Mr. Can has a copy for you there.
Brad?
Councillor Whittingcould.
Are we all good?
Yes, so we have Councillor Harkin's alternative motion.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes, yeah.
The alternative motion, that council supports the promotion of healthy choices in Cottesloe and requests, number one, that the administration should include consideration of unhealthy and addictive substances and activities advertising in the upcoming public health plan. And number two, that the officers report to council on the upcoming request for tender documents for bus shelter advertising in the town include recommended wording to restrict advertising of unhealthy food and drink, alcohol, fossil fuels, tobacco products and gambling. Number three, that the wording of the bus shelter contract allows for periodic review of advertising standards as recommended by the Council Council's, in inverted commas, toolkit on healthy advertising standards, close brackets, for local governments of 2024.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Sadler. Councillor Harkins, would you like to speak to that, please?
Thank you. And I would like to commend Councillor Bulbeck for bringing the concept to council, because we did need to discuss the bus shelter advertising, and we will be discussing that tender next month. However, our public health plan, which all local governments are required to do, will not be ready for another year. So we did need to deal with the bus shelter advertising contract, and that is for up to 20 years. So it's important that we do consider any restrictions before the tender progresses. The wording of the restriction should be clear, unambiguous and suited to the situation. Other local governments have tackled restrictions on advertising, but the approach and wording of restrictions does vary quite considerably. Online gambling and sports-related gambling is an increasing problem, particularly in introducing young people to the concept of gambling, and we all know the implications on individuals, families and society is well understood. However, special consideration may need to be given by the administration to lottery advertising, given that Lottery West supports community amenities, including skate parks, and also supports the Cancer Council's work. But I'm confident the administration will be able to deal with that. Now, a particular point about fossil fuels, I've included that in the motion only on town-controlled bus shelters, so nothing to do with nippers or any other sporting activities. And I think it's imprudent on us from a risk management point of view to include that purely for bus shelters because of the risk of vandalism by illegal protesters, and these may increase over time. Cottesloe could be regarded as a high-profile target for physical protests involving vandalism. Risk management supports its restriction on property under the control of the town. The administration is responsible for the drafting of appropriate wording for any specific terms of inclusion in the request for tender document and can advise council on options and recommendations. The final point was that the contract for the bus shelters is up to 20 years, and it certainly needs to be future-proofed to take account of any new evidence concerning additional harmful products or activities, hence the allowance for periodic review. And I've put the link there.
Thank you, Councillor Harkins. Councillor Sadler, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to support the alternate motion, and just to add that WALGA also does really support local governments looking into restricting advertising and having policies around addictive substances and unhealthy substances as part of the public health planning. It's not a requirement. What we can do with our public health plans is very wide-ranging, but this is one way that we can actually improve the public health of our community and also make it easier for families to assist their children to make healthy food choices as well. It's pretty hard for parents when you've got kids seeing chips and things being advertised when they've got the I wanters, and that's going to actually align with a lot of parental views in the community. I particularly like paragraph 3 of Councillor Harkins' alternative motion, where she's actually future-proofing the bus shelter contract by making sure that if there are changing health standards going forward for the Cancer Council, that these can be then brought into the contract. So I think that's really valuable, and I really support that. I would like to take the opportunity now, if I could, to move a small amendment with additional points. They would actually be points 4 and 5. Now that we've got the numbering and they would be just to actually, I'll just read it out, to request the WA Local Government Association to develop a policy template for local governments regarding the advertising of unhealthy and addictive substances and activities on property under its control. And unhealthy food and drink, alcohol, fossil fuels and related domestic appliances, tobacco products and gambling are requested to be considered for inclusion in the policy template, and further request the administration to forward a copy of the council resolution, and I'm happy to cross out and rationales, to WALGA before the 8th of August 2025. If I had a seconder, I would speak to that amendment.
Councillor Bulbeck, I think, was there before you.
Look, thank you. One of the things that WALGA does well is actually make things easier for local governments by doing some of our work for us and creating some consistency around policies. And one of the challenges, I'm sure it was the case for Councillor Bulbeck and for the administration, is you're actually having to search around on other local government websites to see what other policies exist, how they vary, are they fit for purpose, whereas you've actually got a dedicated policy team at the WA Local Government Association, which actually can create a template. Now, we're not bound to adopt that template. You can actually modify it yourself. But as say, if we put in a request to WALGA to consider a template, then that actually will then make it easier both for local governments, but actually also for advertising companies. It'll be, the lay of the land will be a lot smoother if in actual fact there's consistency across local governments. And the reason why I put in the date for the administration, if this were adopted, to forward a copy before the 8th of August 2025 is because we actually have got a Central Metropolitan Zone meeting coming up in early August, and if it were forwarded prior to that, then it can be considered as part of the Central Metropolitan Zone business, which means that, as I say, it can be forwarded to State Council. And just for elected members, for business to be considered as a new item at a central zone, you really do, for good process, want to have the support of your council for these things to be brought to a zone meeting. We're not just having myself or the other representatives on the zone just bringing up stuff which hasn't been backed. So that's why I brought it as an amendment, because you really want to have the backing of the council, because the town of Cottesloe is the member of WALGA, not the elected members. So I do urge you to support that. It's a really minor amendment, but it does align with what the town is actually, or what council seems to be seeking to achieve.
Thank you, Councillor Bulbeck.
So I'm assuming I might have a right of reply if necessary if I hold off now or not, or is this my only chance to speak?
It's your
sometimes counts.
No, you get a right to reply in respect of a substantive motion,
but
you don't
this
get
amendment.
a right
Okay.
to reply.
So I can speak now, or yes. So sorry, that's what I just.
Oh, you can. Oh, sorry. As the seconder, you can hold off?
That's
Is that what you were, is that what you were
I was
meaning?
going to suggest, that I hold off and
Yeah.
keep my, yeah.
Councillor
Oh,
Harkin?
sorry, could I also, I
oh,
also
sorry.
meant to say, I also want to, when this amendment is resolved, I also want to foreshadow a proposed amendment to
Yeah.
Councillor Harkin's.
Yeah. Councillor Harkins?
I'd like to speak against the amendment simply because of your middle paragraph, and I don't know if you would consider it, because the first one, asking Walga, knock yourself out, that's fine, Walga, and getting it there by the 8th of August. I don't have a problem with those two paragraphs. However, the middle paragraph is quite different from, I feel, from my motion, because I'm only dealing with fossil fuels on bus shelters because of the risk of vandalism, purely that, and I haven't mentioned related domestic appliances at all. So for this, for me, including that middle paragraph is verging into the whole nippers situation, sponsorship on sport, all those sorts of things. So I will not be supporting this amendment simply because of that middle paragraph.
I'd be happy to remove that, given that it doesn't actually align with the content of the substantive motion. And
So what are you removing?
just removing the middle
paragraph.
paragraph. Yeah, just removing it,
Okay.
because we can leave that up to the Walga.
Seconder.
Yeah.
The seconder, Councillor Bulbeck, are you?
Well, obviously, I'm not really supportive, but in order to ensure that the substance gets through rather than possibly goes down, I'll accept that.
Councillor Mason?
Yeah, I wanted to speak against it. I don't think it's our role to be lobbying Walga. Our focus should be on the Cottesloe community, our community. To do this for the central zone or wherever it may be on behalf of other local governments, it's bordering on political activism, and I don't think it's our role. So I don't believe in this policy, and I don't believe we need one.
Thank you. I will speak against the amendment. Just simply, I think we may are likely to end up deciding, in fact, I think we have decided that we don't need a policy. We're dealing with this through a different route. So the idea that we would be lobbying Walga on behalf of other local governments is problematic, because that isn't our role. It's also, I think, a policy, even taking out the fossil fuels and related domestic appliances, it isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach. The fossil fuel policy that Fremantle did, I think Councillor Mason has mentioned 29 months in the making, and it was based on really extensive stakeholder engagement to make sure that they got a policy that was absolutely right for Fremantle. So I'm not really sure what value there would be, and particularly other local governments are quite adequately dealing with the issue, perhaps not as quickly as we would like. We're a little bit ahead of the game, but I don't think it's for want of a policy. It isn't. I don't think there's magic really. But primarily, we subscribe to Walga effectively. It's a members' organisation. I think we should be focusing our requests to Walga on matters that really are, that we're not able to deal with. We don't need a policy ourselves. Why would we be lobbying on behalf of other local governments for something we don't need, and actually we don't even know if they need? So I just think it's a little bit misconceived. Are there any other people wishing to speak on the amendment? On the amendment? Oh, yeah, you were the seconder. Yeah. Oh, I think, yeah. Yes.
Just to respond to that, it is my in my opinion, the job of local, well, not the job, but it's certainly within the remit of local councils to encourage the development of across-the-board policies, templates, whatever, so that, as we were saying in relation to cat containment at the last OCM, that residents aren't confused when they go from one place to another. So that's one reason for having a WALGA template local policy. Another reason is the model development application law that was developed for trees on private land, and that refers back to what Councillor Sadler was saying about not requiring every single council to do its own research in order to bring something about that they wanted to bring about. That, like the template that WALGA develops doesn't require you to implement a public health, an unhealthy advertising policy, but it gives you guidance based on research that they've done once only, rather than every local council who's interested in dealing with this doing their own. And I think that it's the timing of it is really appropriate. We've all agreed that the public health plans, which we're required to develop, it's useful to link how we're going to do advertising of addictive and unhealthy substances into that public health plan, because it's a significant arm of a successful public health plan, is not advertising things, and we know advertising works or they wouldn't spend all that money on it. So it's very timely for WALGA to be encouraged to offer to those councils who want it a policy proposal. I mean, maybe it won't necessarily be a policy, but ways of linking into the public health plan, appropriate ways to deal with advertising.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Borbeck. I'm going to put Councillor Sadler's amendment motion to the vote. All in favour? That's Councillor Harkins, Sadler and Borbeck. And against? That is the balance, so that motion is lost. So we're back to the substantive motion. Councillor Mason?
Yes, I had a question, if I may, through the chair to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Harkins. Would you be open to amending the alternative motion to be based around the information that we received from the Cancer Council, so not including the, which was based on unhealthy food and drink, alcohol and tobacco?
So basically you're saying removing fossil fuels. Is that the only issue?
Yeah, removing fossil fuels, and I don't believe gambling was in, but just because of the Lottery West, just making it more relevant to the Cancer Council's deputation and recommendation,
yes.
Around unhealthy food and drink and tobacco.
Yes, I would... no, simply because of the gambling of all the, online betting and all of that. Having a young son,
we're specifically drawing out Lottery West. So that's
and it's probably not in the Cancer Council thing, because I guess it's not their remit. But I do think gambling because of online betting is a problem.
Look, I think we're entering into debate, so it's
so
a
the
simple...
answer, I suppose, is no. Is no, then, in response to the question, without...
And to be honest, I think an amendment like that would require the consent of the seconder and everyone who's spoken against it. So it would be incredibly messy. So I think you could move an amendment yourself. It is a substantive motion, so you can move an amendment to remove those words if that was the way that you wanted to go.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. So the substantive motion does anyone else want to speak to the substantive motion? Councillor Harkins, do you want to sum up?
Well, I'll just...
Sorry. I did have an amendment, but it's quite clear to me that it's not going to... It might get a seconder, but nothing else is going to happen. Do I propose it or not? Or...
Oh, sorry. That's entirely your decision. You have circulated
why
it.
not? Why not go through the process? So, yes, so I had an addition. I wanted to propose an amendment to have an additional point below the first point. The administration includes. Do you want me to read out what it was? The additional point, yeah.
Yes, it's up there.
Oh, yeah. The unhealthy and, yes, okay, addictive substances and activities to be considered include but are not limited to unhealthy food and drink, alcohol, fossil fuels and related domestic appliances and gambling.
And do you have a seconder? Councillor Sadler. Councillor Bulbuck, would you like to speak to it?
I think we've already spoken at length about the dangers of these substances, and I just wanted to clarify the inclusion of that range of substances, all of which were dealt with in the Cancer Council's document they sent us, either in the substance of their document or in the examples they gave us at the end of the document. But I didn't want to limit it to those substances. Sorry, the related domestic appliances I picked up from Councillor Sadler's motion, which I think was an additional strong addition of, as we know with the asthma, impact of asthma from having gas cookers.
Councillor Sadler.
By having a statement like this, it's not saying that these things will be in a policy. We've got an upcoming public health plan, and we are considering this as part of our public health plan. The things which are recommended to be considered are all things which actually have direct health implications. I know that the related domestic appliances one may seem a little bit left field for people, but thousands of children and adults are hospitalised every year because of heaters and gas stop appliances. So it's actually an incredible problem for families, and if you can actually limit advertising, we know that advertising works, and so there's really clear evidence that is a significant public health problem, and so I would be very supportive of that being something which is considered. Other elected members have stated that it's not for elected members to be doing the research. It gives an opportunity for the administration as part of a public health plan to actually go, what are the things that we can do? Is there evidence? And then they can actually include those. So that is the reason why I think we should add that to the REMAT, because there's all of them are documented to do clear harm, and then that can be considered by the council when the administration brings information back to the council. Thank you.
Councillor Mason, you had your...
Yes, I'd like to speak against the motion, please. I think the health plan, again, now we have elected members doing consultants' work. I think we have to be really careful.
Can I just
I'm all
make
for,
a point of clarification?
No, you can. No, I'm
it's
speaking.
point of order.
This is the point of order
I'm
to the.
speaking.
This is the point
Sorry.
of order to the mayor. I just think having an elected member saying that elected members are doing consultants' work, I just would like that to be clarified. I think that that's an implied criticism.
I think it's an expression of opinion more likely. So I don't think that it is a breach of the standing orders, so I'll overrule that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is in my opinion that we have to be really careful. I think that there is one thing to try and educate our community, but I think that we have to be careful that we're not having like an authoritarian finger wagging at our community. So I think I would like to object to this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Did anyone, Councillor Irvine? Oh, actually, sorry, it was... Yes, I'm going to go to Councillor Irvine.
I'd also like to speak against the motion. As I mentioned earlier, I think that gas in particular is going to play a very important role in the energy transition, and I think I don't know many appliances that work on anything other than gas. Yeah, that's why I'm speaking against the motion.
I thank you, Councillor Irvine, and then Councillor Harkins, and then Councillor Valenko.
I will be speaking against the motion simply because of the domestic appliances clause. Currently charging lithium batteries is causing problems, so where does it stop? And I think most of us are going home to a gas, or a lot of us are going home to a gas heater, and I just think I won't be supporting it for those obvious reasons.
Councillor Valenko. Okay, look, I'll just speak briefly against it and just clarify that I understand Councillor Harkins brought her motion to ensure that it was the wording for the to be included in the tender documentation was actually undertaken by the administration, because that is their role. And I do think we're going to actually be engaging consultants to put together a health plan, and I understand that the role is to do a gaps analysis for the consultants who are experts, and we know all local governments have to do this. They've got lots of experience. They will do a gaps analysis and determine where we are falling short. It might be in Cottesloe that mental health, cancer from exposure to sun are much more relevant than the issues that are identified here. Healthy food, yes, but, and it's the role of the consultant to determine and make suggestions, to do that gaps analysis and make suggestions about how we can best address the issues that we're faced with, rather than being prescriptive and preempting the outcome. So it may be that unhealthy food and drink will be in there. I'm not sure about the other issues, whether they will or won't, or whether they would be lower priority, just because we're not going to be able to address everything. And there are certainly other areas of health that could be addressed in the public health plan. So on that basis, I don't think we should be adopting a prescriptive approach. Did anyone else want to speak? I think that's just about everybody who's spoken. I'll put... sorry? It's an amendment. So I will put what am I saying? I'll put the amendment to the vote. All in favour as Councillor Bulbeck and Sadler, and against, that's the balance. So that motion is lost. So back to the substantive motion, which... Okay, yes.
Sum up?
Yeah. Yes, please, sum up.
Just to sum up, to make it clear, it's just for the administration to consider the addictive substances in the public health plan, just the word consider, but most importantly, 2 and 3, it's about the bus shelters, which we needed to do anyway. So just to be clear on what the motion, the nut of the motion is, to dealing with the bus shelters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to put the substantive motion to the vote. All in favour? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much to everyone. So... Yeah. Yes, actually, can I just... should we just adjourn the meeting? What I might actually, before we adjourn, I think we will move on to item 13, and I'll close, I'll put a motion that we close the meeting. We're considering 13.1.1 CEO proposed key performance criteria. That is a matter that, it's an employment matter, and Marine Parade Sharepath Detailed Design Consultancy tender that contains commercial information. So on that basis, the CEO has recommended that we close the meeting. I move that we close the meeting. Councillor Mason, all in favour? That's unanimous, but noting that Councillor Thomas was not present. And can Nobody out there waiting? No, yeah, I can see. You? Councillor Harkins.